Reunion. I felt the warmth of Orion's palm, the force of his shove, and I screamed with rage. I stumbled backwards and found myself in Wales again, still screaming. The force of my scream made the earth shudder. Clouds gathered and the wind started to rise, and still I screamed, mana flowing from me into the universe. "Elle, stop." It was Mum. I had to stop. It was Mum. I missed her so much. I wanted to be back here for so long. I stopped myself from hoping, and now I had everything I ever wanted. And all I had to do was lose Orion for it. My scream shifted into a howl of despair. "Galadriel." That was all Mum had to say. I stopped and looked around. A mini hurricane was tearing through the hillside. A flock of sheep was running the other way. Luckily, the entire area was empty of people. Was it luck? Or did Mum prepare for this, somehow knowing this would happen? I sat there, on a wet hillside in Wales, and cried and raged and cried again. Finally, Mum pulled me up. I was beyond despair and wanted to know. I demanded we go straight to the commune, get a phone, something. I had to know if Orion managed to get out. He had to get out. He just had to. Mum handed me a mobile. I didn't let the surprise stop me and just grabbed it. "Why do you have a mobile, Mum?" I asked as I dialed the number. "New York Enclave," a cheery American voice announced, and I shushed Mum immediately. "Did he make it? Did Orion make it?" My voice was breaking. Chloe's potion was wearing off, and I didn't care. I screamed at the phone when I heard the rest of the recorded message, directing me to various numbers on different extensions. The wind started howling again, as if echoing my frustration. I just turned around so I could hear better. "Oh, for the love of—" I hissed when the voice read through the number 9 without any option to get through to an actual human being. I didn't even notice I was pacing in circles until Mum stopped me, forcefully. Then she tried to take away the phone. Let me go, I need to know, As I became more and more frantic, the hissing sound grew louder. She looked pointedly at me, and I slowly released the mana I had gathered. Mum took the phone, pressed an extension number, and listened for a moment. "Domina Ophelia?" she asked, then nodded. "Yes, she's back. She didn't have to say anything else. The look in her eyes said it all. The sky darkened and fat drops of rain fell. Slight earth turbulence grabbed leaves and pebbles around my feet and started swirling higher and higher. At some point, I was howling into the gathering storm, screaming until the blackness engulfed me. I woke up from a vivid dream about patience devouring me. I was prepared with a death curse on my lips, ready to cast. Mum grabbed my hand and stopped me in the nick of time, and I let my hand drop. I didn't want to live in a world where this had happened. Mum handed me a glass of water. I sipped slowly, knowing she won't say a thing until I finish. I looked around instead. The room we were in was definitely not our yurt. I was sitting in the softest bed I ever been in, and everything smelled so clean and fresh. The room had a big window that looked out to an urban view, higher than I ever saw. "Where are we?" I asked. "Is this the New York Enclave? How did we get here? What about Orion?" Mum just handed me a bowl of porridge, spiced with cinnamon and drizzled over with honey. I ate the whole bowl obediently and discovered that I was actually quite hungry. "Elle, we have a visitor," she started. I immediately leaped out of bed and ran to the door. "Is it Orion? Did he make it back?" I didn't care where we were anymore. I just wanted to know he was back safely. "No, Elle, come back here." Mum's protests were swallowed by the oily wave of dizziness that surrounded me. I made it to the door, but the next thing I knew, I lay flat on my face, gasping, trying my best not to get vomit all over the rich crimson carpet. I was still gasping as Mum wrapped me with a soft dressing gown, deep blue with grey stripes, which reminded me of Orion. "Like my robe?" A familiar voice taunted me, and I lifted my eyes. "Chloe!" She pulled me up in a hug, tears streaming from her eyes. "What's going on?" I asked and hugged her back. I am not a hugger, never was. Somehow, seeing Chloe just made me emotional. "Welcome to the New York enclave," she said. "Knew you'd come here eventually." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Any news?" I asked, and she didn't reply. "We were hoping you will give us some news," said a new voice. Chloe moved quickly. Did she just stand in attention? And I saw her. Domina Ophelia Reese-Lake. "Elle, we can't reach the Skolomans," said Chloe when she saw my expression. "Chloe and Magnus told us all about your plan to destroy the Skolomans," said the Domina, and Chloe winced. Clearly the Domina didn't think it was a good idea. "We were not prepared for this number of children returning to the enclaves all at once." Her nostrils were puffing as she breathed deeply and continued in a lower tone. "We're currently in full alert for the hordes of Maleficaria that will surely try to swarm us, as they did the moment the children started to arrive." The Domina tried again to keep her tone neutral. "What were you thinking, child?" She said the last word with such contempt that I could feel it slapping my face. "Did any Mals come since I was returned to Wales?" I asked her, my anger flaring again. "Not yet," she said, "but it's just a matter of time. Then our plan worked," I said. "No," she said. "At the moment, the access to the Skolomans is blocked." Her face was cold as a mask. "We were wondering what happened in the last moments after everyone passed the gates, and you were left." "What do you mean the access is blocked?" I asked. "Why is there access at all? Didn't my spell work? How? And what about—" My breath caught as I remembered the one detail I managed to forget. "Patience," I mumbled. "No, I definitely do not have any more patience," snapped the Domina. "According to your crazy plan, you were supposed to be the last person to leave the school and destroy it as you did. You did not destroy the school, and you most certainly did not leave it last. So tell me, what happened?" "Patience," I said again. "Patience and fortitude. The monsters at the gate. They are one and the same now." I breathed in, and Mum moved a bit closer, giving me strength. We were almost at the gates. The spell was almost done. But Patience was going to escape before that. I wanted to hold the spell off till the last second. And Orion... My voice broke at that point, and I couldn't hold back the tears. Without a word, the Domina turned back and left the room. To my surprise, Mum got up and left with her. Chloe stayed beside me. "What's going on here?" I asked Chloe. "How come I'm here in New York? I was in Wales, and then Mum had a mobile, and she knew how to reach the Domina. What were they doing out here when we were in there?" Chloe looked helpless. "I don't know much either. When we portaled back, the adults were fuming," she said. "I never thought my parents will not be happy to see me," she frowned. "They were interrogating all the freshmen, but they didn't know enough about the plan and how it came about. By the time we arrived, they already decided that we made a huge mistake." I could imagine that. All those powerful people, seeing their young kids coming out, and all those Mals rushing by, and then to hear that we were planning to destroy the school, the one place they thought would protect us. We did not think of that. Then again, We had no idea how many mouths will answer our call. When did that happen? I asked. How long has it been? It's only been a few hours, said Chloe. The Enclave High Councils are still debating if they want to stop the induction. They are going to send freshmen to a school full of mouths? To fight them alone? I stared at Chloe. They can't be that thick, right? They want to send everyone back, said Chloe. They don't believe the mouths are at the school. How do they explain the thousands of kids that turned up unharmed in every enclave? I asked. They say that's exactly it. Chloe couldn't meet my eyes. Because we fixed the machinery last year, the graduation hall was empty and everyone decided to just leave. She sounded disgusted. Some of them talk as if we were too spoiled and wanted a break from the Skolomans. And they are willing to bet the lives of their children on it? I was almost screaming at this point. We have to do something, Chloe. They will be slaughtered. I know, said Chloe. But maybe Orion? Yes, let's talk about Orion, said the domina from the door. She looked different. Less strict and aloof, softer around the edges. Mum appeared behind her, and I understood what happened. The domina got the Gwen Higgins special treatment. Everyone comes a bit undone after she has a few minutes alone with them. Mum didn't look her usual self. That was the alarming part. Looking at her closely, I saw not only the changes that the last 4 years brought her, but something much deeper. Mum, what's wrong? What aren't you telling me? I could feel my vision tunneling and focusing on her. The more I looked at her, the more it became clear that a huge piece of the puzzle was missing. Mum, how did you know I'd need a mobile to ring the Enclave? I asked in a small voice. And how did we get here so fast? Chloe looked at me, surprised. Is this what's important right now? The domina didn't say anything. She just stepped quickly to the bed and grabbed my wrist. Ophelia, no, Mum warned. She didn't listen. She tapped on the power share with an artifice that looked like a wide fork with 2 tines. The ringing must have meant something because Chloe gasped. Then the domina poked the fleshy bit above my wrist hard enough to draw some blood and mumbled a quick incantation I didn't hear. A drop of blood glistened on the tines and a moment later turned silver, like a drop of mercury. She paled, and Mum smiled, and Chloe turned red. I looked between the 3 of them. What? I said finally. Elle, you're... Chloe started, but then looked at my mum. No, said the domina. Yes, said my mum. They stared at one another, and I could almost see the tension building. Domina Ophelia broke first. Excuse me, I have an induction to stop. And with that, she left the room. Mum, what's happening? I demanded. Ophelia needed proof that the prophecy was true, said Mum. She needed to know that all that was foretold came to pass. She sat next to me and pulled me to her. The prophecy that said you will destroy the world had 2 parts. One, the vision your great-great-grandmother had. The other, the one I had. What did you see? I asked. I saw you and Orion Lake traveling the world and bringing destruction, she said. I thought the only way to stop it would be to come between you 2. I choked and Chloe snorted. Yes, said Mum, that obviously didn't work. But, she raised her hand. There is another part, she said. If we allow the Skolomans to be torn and disappear into the void, this horrible future will not come to pass. I lifted the power share to look at it closely. Now that I was rested, I could feel the mana pulsing through it, as if... Is Orion still alive? Is he still feeding mana to the power sharer? I asked, not sure what I wanted to hear. Yes, said Mum. Then why isn't anyone going after him to save him? I realized as I was talking that no one in their right mind will want to go against patience, even disregarding the prophecy. El, the last part of my vision, the thing that confirms what we need to do next. Mum's eyes filled with tears. You're pregnant. I fainted again, blacked out, left this world temporarily. El, you have to wake up. Chloe's voice sounded strained, frightened. Was I dreaming? Possibly. Probably. I wanted to rub my eyes, but everything was so heavy. El, she said again. She's here to get me to the graduation hall, right? We have time. Orion... And the memory of the moormouth woke me up. El, come on. Chloe shook me. We don't have much time. What's going on? I asked. Your mom finally left, said Chloe. She made me promise to give you this first thing. I reached for the cup and drank the whole thing down. Calming water, of course. I wanted to be angry at Mum, but the potion's effect was immediate. Okay, now that this is out of the way, we can talk, she said. Where did my mum go? I asked. The Domina is still trying to stop the induction from happening, said Chloe. And they still can't reach the school. Your mum went to remind them that we need to let the school dissolve into the void. I stared at her. But Orion is still there, still fighting, I said. Your mum told me the whole prophecy, said Chloe in a small voice. I see what she's thinking. Something just didn't add up. How come Mum, of all people, is willing to give up on someone so easily? What's the time? I asked Chloe. Almost time for dinner, she said, wondering at the rapid change of subject. And the induction? I added. She nodded. There's still time. I'm going. I got out of bed. El, please, started Chloe. Please what? I asked. Please don't save Orion? I have to try, Chloe. That's not what I meant. Chloe looked torn. What are you all hiding from me? I almost screamed at her. Why are we not even trying to save Orion? I'll go alone. I won't ask anyone to join me, just... Why won't they even try? I dressed quickly and nearly jumped out of my skin when Chloe hugged me from behind. El, you can't, she whispered, and her voice broke. I turned to her. What was the last part of the prophecy, Chloe? I asked. What did my mum tell you? Chloe looked at the floor. She told me that according to the prophecy, I will try to save Orion, and I will fail. I will run out of mana, and in desperation I will use the little spark of life inside me. Against her will. Even though she's newly formed, not any different from any other cell in my body at this point really, I can use her to get enough mana to save Orion. And that would be the tipping point. That will be how I will become the greatest maleficer that ever was and destroy the world. And I will drag Orion down with me. I was so angry I couldn't even yell. I made Chloe take me to the induction point. The New York enclave was big enough to have a subway station connected to it. From the station, it was a short, winding walk down the tunnels into the sewers, because, of course, it had to be sewers. On our way there, we passed families with small children. The new freshmen, I guess? Some looked as if they were returning home after deciding to skip induction. Others were walking reluctantly towards the induction point. A tired-looking guard was standing at the mouth of a tunnel and telling everyone that they will know when they'll know. When he was arguing with a particularly insistent parent, we snuck into the tunnel. Chloe halted at some point. "It's there," she said, pointing at the darkness. It didn't seem right. I assumed that the New York enclave will have more light here. Maybe even benches for the parents waiting with their children. A vending machine. Not this nothingness. "No budget for some lights?" I asked Chloe. She shook her head. "There were. This is actually a nice place to wait, once you get over the whole not gonna see my parents in the next 4 years, said Chloe. But now it's just blackness. Look. She mumbled an incantation that made a fairy light blossom and made it twirl around in front of us. And then I saw it. Barely noticeable, close to the ground, was part of a groggler's tentacle, moving slowly. Next to it, a hairy leg belonging to a siren spider. I didn't want to say anything. I let Chloe dance the light around and around. When you knew what to look for, you could see fractions of mouths sticking outside of the darkness. That's it, I said, bile rising in my stomach. Patience. Chloe recoiled. It can't be. The gates would... Her protest died down when she noticed the purplish midsection of a soul eater. I couldn't think. I couldn't allow myself to think. Orion was there, trapped. Patience was so enormous that the gates couldn't hold it anymore. It was learning, using the portal somehow, and adjusting its massive frame to slither back into the world. You have to warn them, I told Chloe. If Patience manages to get unstuck, it will start with everyone in the Enclave, and from there, all of New York. Yes, we have to go. Chloe tried to pull me, but I was standing my ground. Now I knew what Orion was thinking in our last moments together. We cannot let this abomination destroy the world. A calmness engulfed me, and I could hear Chloe from a distance. She was no longer pulling me, just begging for something. Crying, maybe? I have to go now, I told her. You have to warn everyone. I thought about it for a moment. You have to warn everyone about me too. Just in case. I knew I will stop at nothing to destroy Patience. And I knew I would fail. I decided that even as a Maleficer, I would keep throwing death curses at this monster until I become the monster they feared for 16 years. I braced myself for a run. Tell Mum I love her, I said, and dived inside the moormouth. My feet felt like running in mud. The air itself was thick and syrupy. I heard Chloe, but her voice was muffled, coming in low and slow. Then she changed her tone. Maybe it was someone else with her? The voice I heard was high and shrill, screaming, "Time bubble! Time bubble!" over and over. I understood the message. Somehow, the area I stepped into was trapped in a time sphere spell. Was it possible that Patience and the whole school were stuck in the last few seconds of graduation? And the super volcano I created is still seconds from erupting. I pushed harder against the barrier that slowed me down. Patience didn't seem affected by it. The barrier was so huge that it didn't actually engulf me like the other moormouths. I tried to push into the barrier again, but bounced back. An eye opened where I tried to shove my shoulder a moment before, and I realized this was not a barrier. It was Patience. I closed my eyes, smelling the foul breath of 1,000,000 deaths, and touched it with my palm. I didn't wait to be swallowed whole. I started casting immediately, pulling mana from the power sharer in a careful, measured stream. Slowly, I managed to move forward, to carve a tunnel inside that horror. I kept a steady stream of death and somehow felt more alive than ever. Was I already a Maleficer? Am I too late? My body was vibrating with mana. I felt it allowing me to cut patience with precision I never had before with any of my spells. Shapes were falling out and rolling away. Mals? Mal pieces anyway. Parts that didn't integrate with the giant mass around me. I think that Patience had so much to eat in such a short time that he didn't even start digesting most of them. Screams. I freed a Mal. A whole one. A small one, I think. I somehow knew that it wasn't just Chloe behind me anymore. There were adults standing shoulder to shoulder behind me, probably in a circle. Some were fighting the Mal I released, others casting spells, all of them waiting for me to fall. I stepped further and further into the belly of the beast. Patience was too big to shake me off, and I was in too deep anyway. At some point, I got in so deep I couldn't hear anything. The mana stream was hypnotic, and I think I drowned in it. I only came out of my trance occasionally, when I needed to swallow. My throat had dried up a while ago, I think. I have found my rhythm, and I returned to the stream again. Mana in, curse, mana out. In and out and in. Die and die and die. And I didn't find Orion. I felt the hope drizzling away. I kept casting, but my rhythm had changed. A heaviness settled around me, and no amount of mana could lift it. "Lake, where the hell are you?" I screamed in frustration. Patience was waiting for this, waited for me to stop cursing it, and started folding in on itself. He tried to crush me and my shield to stop me for good. Frantically, I resumed my spell casting. I felt the spark of life inside me join the effort, and we started holding mana by the bucket in a final effort to destroy Patience. Unlike before, this time I felt mana building up every time the spell hit. My confidence grew, and I used more and more power. Die, 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 I chanted again and again. Every time, the mana flowed out and returned in a wave. I stopped moving. The rubbery walls of Patience's belly closed in on me. Unconsciously, I mimicked Orion in the graduation hall, standing my ground and letting everything come to me. Again and again and again and again. Die and die and die and die and die and... The bubble burst. I got stuck in an in-between. I could smell the Skolomans ahead of me, metallic and moldy and suffocating. I heard the creaking of the pipes and saw flashes of the gates. Behind me, the New York Enclave induction point had appeared. I could see glimpses of broken furniture. They really did have a waiting room there. I heard a faint whistling, like a kettle coming to boil. The sound was distorted, too slow. "Elle?" A hoarse whisper sounded from the lump at my feet. An Orion-shaped lump. "Orion!" I waded in the sticky substance that used to be Patience and the thousands of creatures it devoured over the years and pulled him out. "What happened to the supervolcano, Elle?" he whispered. "I don't want... Patience." He was shaking and mumbling, and whole. His personal shield held. The whistling was getting stronger, faster. I could see something crawling towards us. The sound was coming back, and a thunderous roar was rising. It was Fortitude. Apparently, my curses managed to separate the Mormouths, not kill them. Fear flashed through me. I grabbed Orion's hand and pulled him off the sticky floor. We stumbled through the goo towards the gates. I held on tight to Orion and pushed us both through. Please don't let it be too late, please. I hoped his touch will portal both of us to safety. Behind me I heard the Skolomans groaning, releasing all the built-up pressure of the time sphere spell, and time started back again. My supervolcano spell unfolded. The gates grabbed us both and threw us back to the sewers of New York. I allowed myself to close my eyes, not before making sure that neither of us was lying in a puddle of New York sewer water.